Hello, I am so excited to be here on Jon Stolpe Stretched, and I'm excited to share the stage with my buddy Ellory Wells. Ellory is a friend of mine who we officially met at least 2 or 3 years ago when we collided on the blog world and started connecting there, but then I entered into a relationship with him through his mastermind group that he offers. And it's been a really great tool for me. It's helped me to grow. It's helped me to network with some amazing people. And I have really valued the wisdom that I've gained from Ellery and the other people who are on the line every couple of weeks when we do our calls together. It's also cool because I get to connect with him through the Facebook world, through the various groups that we're in that push us forward in the mastermind community and kind of in the entrepreneur world. I wanted to just take a few minutes to allow Ellery to introduce himself. So why don't you share a little bit about who you are and maybe what you like to do in your spare time and where you're from, some of those details?
Sure. Well, like I said before we started recording, John, thanks for having me to be able to talk to your audience about all the things that we're going to cover today. I have learned over the last few years that I'm not always good about marketing anything or talking about something that I want to launch. And we'll get to that a little bit later, but having the opportunity to talk to you and knowing what you do and the types of people that pay attention to you, it's really cool to be able to have this kind of conversation in front of them. So thank you. My background is I was a corporate guy. I thought I wanted to climb the corporate ladder. And I was at IBM for a little while and I got laid off. I worked for a couple other fairly large companies. And then right after, it's about 6 months after I got laid off from IBM, I went back to work at Dell for the second time. And while I was there, I was in sales. I made some pretty good money. I got a couple trophies. And then about 3 weeks before I ended up getting fired, I was handed, I don't have the trophies in my office anymore. They're actually like holding it down cat toys. They're being functional instead of just sitting on a shelf or in a box or something. But about 3 weeks before, the month before I got fired, I got handed this Team Rockstar trophy, and I made about $20,000 in commissions. I was doing all of the, or at least most of the right things. And then I think it's on January 17th or 14th. It's now become a fuzzy memory. In 2014, I got fired. And after all of that success, I was walked out the door and kind of put into this position of, do I try to figure out how to build a business and take all of the things that I had learned, some aspects of my personality, my strengths, the way I see the world, and try to turn that into a business? Or do I polish off my resume and go beg somebody else to hire me to make money for them and their company? And here we are. I can't believe it's been 3 years and almost 8 months. It just blows my mind that it's been that long since I've been working with entrepreneurs, people who are wanting to start a business. They're not quite entrepreneurs yet, but they want to be. And honestly, people who are not really wanting to become entrepreneurs, but they want to do something on the side. They either want to have fun, they want to start a blog or a podcast as a hobby, but they have no intentions of leaving their day job. And I get to work with people who are like, this is not for me anymore, and I want to transition into something else. And then, like I said, I've been doing that for about 3.5 years, and that's how we met. And fun thing about me, most of my life is either on my blog or, as you know, on my podcast, but I play a lot of video games. I love video games. I don't
What's
know
your
if
favorite game right now? What are you playing these days?
that's well, I like RPGs. You know, you develop a character, put points in like your ninja skills and your health and all that stuff. So, Elder Scrolls Online. I traded in my. Did I tell you I traded in my Xbox One? I had both. Did I tell you guys that? I don't even have an
No.
Xbox anymore. So that, and there's a free game. It's kind of older, but on the PlayStation Network, we got it for free. It's called Just Cause, and you get to fly around a beautiful, like tropical series of islands and just blow stuff up. It's pretty awesome. But yeah,
Oh, that's cool. I know a little bit more about you, but where do you live?
I live in Round Rock, Texas. I moved here to work for Dell, and that's where Dell is headquartered. So that was what brought me here, and we're about 26 miles north of downtown Austin.
So, if I understand the map of Texas correctly,
You don't. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than you
it
think.
is big. Yeah, it is huge. It should really be its own country, right? Um,
I don't know if I disagree with that.
but obviously, there's been a lot of stuff in the news this week about what's going on in Texas. What's your perspective? What are you seeing? What are you experiencing? What's your take on what's going on in your state right now with Hurricane Harvey?
Well, I've gotten a lot of messages from people, actually messages from a client in the UK and a friend who I met through doing this type of business who's actually in Perth, Australia, uh, who haven't necessarily seen just the massiveness of Texas. And they said, hey, hope you're dry and safe. We're actually about 3.5 to 4 hours away from the coast. But here in Round Rock, we got lots of rain from Friday, Saturday. And I think it was originally forecast to go basically all week, which would have been a disaster. But Harvey moved east to Houston, which is also about 3.5, 4 hours away. We're kind of in a triangle, so I might be flipped on in video, but Texas, it's got the point down here, and the coast goes like that. Houston's over here, and then where it hit is here, and we're kind of here. So we're a few hours, couple hundred miles away, but we still got it hit. As far as perspective, I know people from growing up, high school and college, who have posted pictures on Facebook, and they're like, this is the house that we just bought, and the water level is almost to the top of their garage door. And I'm not kind of paying somewhat close attention, kind of not, try not to focus too much on the news, but the backup measures have also failed. Like there's that much water. It's kind of like when Katrina hit and all of the levees were breaking, all the things that were designed to hold the water in. This is worse than Katrina. There's, I think, 2 or 3 times as much water if I heard that correctly. But it's a lot of people. I mean, and it's not just the bad neighborhoods like people tried to say about Katrina. I mean, there's $1 million homes that I've seen pictures of. The pictures I saw was on Instagram, and a guy was in a boat and he's filming another guy in a boat. That guy's sitting in his front yard, and you can't even see his front door. And these are $1 million homes. So those, it has nothing to do with money. I mean, hurricanes don't have a choice, but they, this is a lot of disaster, and it's impacting. I don't know what percentage of our country's oil comes through the Houston area. I think it's a fair amount. I went to a gas station today, and it was empty. And the one across from where my wife works, that one's empty. And the comptroller, whatever a comptroller of no, is the railroad commissioner, whatever that guy does. He said that we don't have a shortage of oil, we just can't get it to you.
Mm.
and at the rate people are getting it. It's just an interesting thing because I've just seen a lot of people talking about it. There was a guy in Florida saying, Texas deserved it because it ended up going for Trump, and he ended up getting fired. There's a lot of politicism and a lot of don't talk about topics about this, and I think it's kind of ridiculous. But as far as right now, I mean, it was 90 degrees, which is better than being 110 in August. But I got to work from my back porch this afternoon, and yesterday afternoon, the rain has stopped, the sun is out, and I mean, we're a few hours from Houston, where there's a lot of people underwater, a lot of shelters, and people having some major problems. But here in Round Rock, other than a shortage of gas, we're all right.
I'm glad you're doing fine. Obviously, I think the people of Houston and the surrounding areas are on a lot of our minds and our hearts and our prayers right now. And I just, it's interesting to get a perspective for somebody who's a little bit closer geographically, on what you're experiencing. So I appreciate you sharing that. I think that obviously it's relevant to what's going on in the world today. But that's also, it's also an interesting paradigm in the fact that that's going on, and those people down there are really being impacted in a major way. And yet there's a lot of stuff still going on in the world. I went to the gym this morning, and the ESPN on the TVs were showing the Texas Rangers versus the Houston Astros game that was being played in the Devil Rays Stadium in Tampa Bay. And, some life is still going on in the midst of, what's really just obviously beyond disruptive to a ton of people there. Thank you for sharing that. I also just wanted to thank you for sharing a little bit about your previous life in the corporate world. Obviously, it's an interesting conversation because I'm in the corporate world. In fact, I just got a huge promotion at the place that I work, and it's a challenge, but I am very thankful. I feel called to be where I'm at, but it's also great to be able to tap into Ellory and to hear his heart for encouraging people to really live out their purpose. I mean, I think that that's a lot about what you do, at least from my interpretation. So I have a question for you. When you got fired from Dell, and you were making that decision about whether to go find another job or to start something new, what led you to start something new and to step down this entrepreneurial path? And then maybe what fears did you have about doing that? I know you're a husband, and that's there's a different aspect that lies there, and obviously a lot of my audience are fathers and husbands and things like that. So there's a kind of a call to provide for our families. And I'm sure that you face that in some of your decision making, I would think.
Yeah. So the decision had kind of been building up, and whenever I talk about some of the details, even when I don't want to, when I do, someone out there is like, yeah, I've been there. So I'll share a little bit about the stuff that kind of sucks. So that was in 2014, in January of 2014, when I got fired. I started blogging in January of 2012, and I had been focusing on personal development, leadership, just trying to, I don't say be a better person, but I think honestly, a lot of it was, I thought that would be an avenue or a path that I could take to get myself promoted. There was a lot of Dell was for some reason they were insulated from the crash of the economy. I started in 2009, and we actually had my first Christmas party with Dell was $100,000 with $70,000 worth of prizes. $2,000 or $3,000 trip vouchers. I got a laptop. I mean, it was a lot of money. So we had a lot of insulation from that the first couple of years that I was there. I was there for about 4.5 years, and I wanted to rise in the company. I wanted to do better. I sort of wanted to drink the corporate Kool-Aid. it doesn't taste all that good. But I wanted to do that, and I kept trying to get to that next level, the next level of sales rep, the next level of management or a new job to make more money. And I wanted to set myself up to go into a management position. And the guy who fired me, we actually interviewed for the same job, and he got it and I didn't. So I think I saw the path that I was on, personal development, talking about leadership. I hosted book clubs where we ran through half a dozen of John Maxwell books. I'm sure there's more of them over there on my bookshelf, but Dave Ramsey books. I'm looking at some of the titles over there. Just trying to establish myself as a thought leader, as someone who had the best interest of the department. Anyway, that path led to me seeing how things were being run. And when you read half a dozen John Maxwell books on leadership, you see this like gold standard of leadership that could be. And it was not what I was seeing every day when I went into work. And that just at the beginning of my book, I said, or it's either the beginning or at the appendices of recommended books, I said that the personal development books should kind of come with a warning label. Like, if you read this, you're not going to be the same afterward. And every book I read just kind of separated what I saw as possible and what was ideal and what I felt like I could implement, not being done. Then I don't know how that actually turned into entrepreneurship, other than I knew I didn't want to go back, and I keep wanting to say like the monkey suit, but I didn't have to wear a suit. I wore polo shirts and shorts most days. But it was at that time after I was no longer there, where Ashley and I sat down. We're like, well, what's the worst that could happen? And her worst case scenario was far worse than mine. I don't know where I found this, but this is hers. She wrote down each line is like a different bad thing that could happen. And my version was, well, I could go like haul lumber at Home Depot. And that's kind of what it was. It was the worst case scenario for me was not, it didn't happen, my version or her version, but it was like, why not try to do this? Why not at least try? There's probably been a dozen studies out there, John. I'm sure you've come across them, maybe even talked about them on your blog. When people ask people in their 80s and 90s, like, what do they regret? And it's not like, well, I wish I had gotten that promotion, or I wish I'd made more money. They regret not trying new things. They regret not spending time. And that's what I kind of looked at. And I was like, and that's what I would encourage people who are in their 20s to do. Try something that might not work. When we sat down, we're like, well, Ashley at that time, we were going back through the history just a couple weeks ago. She was not even full-time at her job yet. So it was kind of it was a bigger leap of faith looking back than I remember it being. Actually, she was not full-time at her job even. And she had just graduated, I think. Anyway, I was like, why not? Let's give it 3 months and see how it goes. And I learned a lot about myself, whether I had the self-control to wake up and put in work on something when there's not. I mean, Ashley's here now, but until she got home, I could have slept till 2:00 in the afternoon, or I could have stayed up late or played video games. It takes a lot of discipline. And so we gave it a 3-month trial to see, can I do it? And I don't know why. I can't really take credit for it. Can't give anybody else credit, but I went home after I showed up a little bit early for work. Had to be there a little before 9. I was out of the building at 9:12, and 10 minutes later, I was at home working again on blogging and some of the things I do now. So just having that drive, I think that might be a really long answer to what you're talking about, John, but I learned a lot about me, and I thought, why not? Let's try it. If it doesn't work, I mean, I have an impeccable resume and the trophies to prove it, and I could go and try to work for somebody else. I just didn't believe in myself while I was still at Dell. I did not believe that I could do it. And like I posted on Facebook, a clip of our call today, you know, at some point, you just gotta step up and do what needs to be done. And most people that I work with, they have stepped up, but they forget. And most people will step up. They are good enough. They are talented enough. They're just afraid to put themselves in the position where they would have to. And, I say,
so did the success come right away? I mean,
no.
when you, okay.
For a couple reasons. And I've talked about this. Actually, I'm in the middle of a series on ElloryWells.com, some of the 12 lessons that I learned. And I think it was that one, and it was, I wasn't good enough. I was pretty good, but I wasn't good enough to garner any sort of attention from people. And I had to get better. I had to be more professional. And, those are the things that I try to teach you guys in the mastermind. Those are the things that I try to work on with my coaching clients. All of the things that delayed my generating money. It was like 6 months before I made anything really. Maybe a little bit. It was probably October. So probably 9 months. All the things that I learned in those 9 months, and all the things that I've learned since, and all of the things that I learned even before that when I was still at Dell. Those are the things that I try to teach people now, so that they don't have to spin their wheels and do nothing and make no progress. Like I felt like I wasn't for 8.5 months when I was on my own, or for the two years I was blogging before that. I want to shorten that learning curve for people, so they don't have to go into their offices sick to their stomach, and it's like, I don't want to do this like me.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So we're talking tonight. I mean, the main reason we got together was to talk about this new thing that you've got coming out. Before we do that, I just want to point to what's over your shoulder, and that is the exit strategy book that you wrote not that long ago. And if you are looking for a practical read, I would encourage you to check that book out. I know that you can get it on Amazon.com, but I bet if you go to Ellory's site, you can also find a way to get it there as well. And it's a worthwhile read. The cool thing is that what you are getting ready to do right now, what you're getting ready to launch, is really something that goes hand in hand with that manual that is right behind you. And I'd love to allow you to share a little bit more about that. I think that, that's really something exciting to share with my audience.
Cool. Yeah. Well, let's do it. Let's talk about it. Whatever you want. But yeah, it's called Exit Strategy. It's 293 pages of awesome and super. It's the first part's my story, part of what we talked about, some of the details. And as soon as I started talking about this, and a few people started getting their hands on it, they were like, you need, my entrepreneur friends are like, oh, you need a follow-up sequence and a sales funnel and all of the stuff to go into it. And at first I didn't want to. Then I was like, yeah, I'll get around to it, but I don't know how it would work. I don't know what that would look like. And then what was it, about 2 months ago, I guess, it finally clicked of, okay, this is what it would look like. This is actually something that I've had other courses about, that I've learned, use those as a learning experience. I actually, on a coaching call today, I pulled up my notebook. I was on the phone with Bridget, and I was looking at my note, and I told her then, if you're ever wanting to take notes, like at a conference or whatever, put a date. Put a date. Just start at the top of the page. Just put a date so there's at least some reference. Because I found notes that I had taken before I wrote the book of stuff that actually ended up in the book, and I didn't really realize it because I switched to this one. I got a Star Wars notebook. I've shown you guys this. One of my clients or one of my readers and friends gave this to me, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna start using Star Wars. So this is actually a few years old, but it was cool to go back and look. And the stuff that we're about to talk about, and the stuff that made it into part 3, which is called the roadmap in exit strategy, is stuff that I've been practicing and doing and teaching people with some slight variation for a really long time. And it's kind of cool to see how all of that has come together into this conversation, into the book, which came out last year, and then in 8 Weeks to Exit, which we're about to talk about.
Yeah, so you're getting ready to launch this 8 Weeks to Exit. Who is it for? What is it? What are the benefits? What can I expect to get out of this thing?
Sure. So I think there are two types of people. I thought it was one type of person that should go into 8 Weeks to Exit, which you can find at 8weekstoexit.com. My first thought was, this is for people who want to leave their jobs and start an online business, but they don't really know how to set up any of the infrastructure, how to, what a blog is, what WordPress is, what hosting is, all of the things that I did not know in January of 2012, just days before. Like, I'd never bought a domain before. I didn't know I'd never even heard the word WordPress before. And as I've told you guys on calls, anytime there's a question, people don't buy. If they wonder what they're going to get or how it's going to be delivered, any question is one more reason to not buy. And I didn't know any of this 5.5 years ago, approximately. And I don't want not knowing being one of the reasons why someone doesn't do something really interesting online, or not knowing what all of this stuff meant, which is, by the way, I'm going to do a podcast on the Ellory Wells show, and it's just going to be definitions of stuff that people have asked me about that they felt, this is what somebody told me. What is this? I've been wanting to ask, but I felt stupid, so I never asked. That should not be, well, you let me know what those terms are, and I'll make sure I get them out there. But I don't want those types of questions, something that are, I don't want to say basic, because that sounds a little bit insulting, but some of those terms that we've all heard and didn't have the time to sit down and research them or really fully understand them. I don't want any of that stuff to be a reason why you don't start an online business. So I'm going to try to break it down into all of the smaller pieces.
Since you're taking a quick sip there, I think, it's an interesting thing. 10 years ago, people wouldn't have even necessarily thought about the importance of having an online presence. When it comes to having a business, they'd put their phone number in the phone book and, word of mouth. And, I think there's still something about word of mouth that's very powerful. That's part of the reason we're having this conversation today. But, really there is an importance of having an online presence, whether you're a chiropractor, whether you're running a mastermind group, whether you're doing some sort of marketing organization, whatever. I think it's important to recognize that and to realize that what you're talking about doesn't just apply to somebody who is, doing exactly what you're doing. It applies to everybody who wants to do something that has an entrepreneurial bent to it in this day and age. You cannot escape the online world today. It's just where things are. So, we can get back to what you were saying, but I think that's a key ingredient. If somebody says, well, I don't necessarily need that, I would caution you and say, well, you might want to think again, because where a lot of business starts and really starts getting some leg room or some momentum is here online. So
I'm of the opinion if you don't have a website, you don't have a business. I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with that. But one of my on a previous podcast episode, I don't know if you have checked this one out, John, about Cole Hatter, who started the Thrive Make Money Matter conference, which I'll be going to for the third year. The one I'm doing a ticket giveaway for. He said 50% of the U.S. population now is under 20, under 30, maybe under 30. We thought 10 years ago, we were talking about the power of the buying power of baby boomers. Now we're talking about people who do everything on their phone. I'm not one of those. I'm an older baby boomer. The guy I was interviewing, he's a millionaire and he's younger than me, and it bugs the heck out of me. I wish I'd started doing those kinds of things a lot longer, but he was like, yeah, we're an older millennial and I'm older than him. Long story short, I don't do everything on the phone, but what do we do when we try to find something? Like, it bugs me when one of our parents like texts or calls and asks for directions. And I'm like, you have the same phone that I do. You have the same app that I do. You don't need here. Let me Google that for you. Actually, let me Google that for you.com is the real website. It's
that's So real quick, I mean, we have so many things that we could promote here. We want to promote the 8 weeks to exit, but I would be remiss if I didn't pause for just a second and promote what Ellory has going on his podcast, the Ellory Wells Show. If you are a podcast listener like myself, I listen to a ton of podcasts. I would encourage you to check out Ellory Wells' podcast. Just go on to, I guess it's iTunes. I think you can get it on Stitcher as well. Is that true? Yeah, get it everywhere. So go check that out. He's got great content that comes out there. The other thing that he just mentioned, and he just alluded to it, but he has a great giveaway going on right now. I think it's still active, right? So tell us the link for that.
Like 5 days.
You've got a couple days to enter. So it's a giveaway of a free general admission ticket to the Thrive Conference in Las Vegas. It's coming up at the end of September. Where can people find that?
So the page for the giveaway, if you've got Ellory Wells and you know me, like on the shirt, all of the links go from there. But ElloryWells.com/giveaway, we're actually giving away a free general admission ticket, which I think those are going to be that's about it's several $100s, $200 worth of value there. But I'm wanted to sweeten the deal. Me and Beaton.
Jason Beaton. Yep.
And we put our heads together and like, what can we do to really make this a win? So I'm gonna take everybody to dinner, me and him, and then whoever wins. So it'll probably be a couple hours. It's Vegas. It's always a couple hours to eat. So there's just the value of the food and the drink there, but some of my coaching packages are $420 per hour. So that combined with him, ask us anything about business. So we're going to throw the dinner in there for free. And then Beaton has been doing email marketing funnels that he told us today it was a 5-figure deal. we were joking about where the comma and the decimal point went, but long story short, he's got over a $10,000 deal, and he's going to give one of those email marketing funnels also to the person who enters. So it's over a $9,000 package to anybody who wins. You got to get yourself to Vegas and all that other stuff, but I have no doubt that actually Cole said if you didn't get your money's worth, he would refund you the value or the price of your ticket. Well, you're getting a ticket for free here, but that's at /giveaway. I don't know if I said that. ElloryWells.com/giveaway. You can get all the details. You can enter, and the more you share, I don't know if you know this, John. The more you share, the more chances you actually have to win. You share it, somebody clicks on your link, you get more chances.
In a way, I'm giving away without having my link clicked here by letting you promote it, but I think it's worth it. I mean, I know the value that you bring to the table, and I personally know Jason Beaton thanks to our mastermind group, and I know that he'll bring tremendous value in the conversations that you're going to have. And that doesn't even count the conference itself. So if you are watching this and you want a chance to hang out with two great people and then with a bunch more great people at the conference, you got to check it out. There's a lot of great people who are going to be at that conference, and it's worthwhile from what I understand.
Well, the last thing I'll say about that, unless you want to talk about it, John, is I could go to any conference anywhere in the world that I wanted to. This is one that I bought. I bought tickets for this one, the final day of last year's event. I mean, it was just there was no question. Speaker lineup is off the charts. I don't want to take up too much of that time, but if you go to you can change the link if you want to, John, but if you go to the giveaway page, whatever's on, did you pop up on the video or whatever you put on the show notes, John, wherever you want to send people, there's a link actually to the Thrive page where you can check it out, all the speakers, and see the agenda and all the stuff. I think they just released the agenda actually, if you want to see all that stuff. But the giveaways, I'm looking forward to announcing the winner, whoever that might be, because it's like giving somebody a gift.
Yeah,
you get them something really cool. You take them out to like your favorite restaurant. Well, this is going to be the conference equivalent of that, and I'm excited to be able to share that with somebody. So I'm glad you paused for a second to talk about it.
Yeah. So let's get back to 8 weeks to exit. How does it work? How does the whole 8 weeks to exit work? You know, I'm a logistics guy, so I want to know, like, you know, when I sign up for this, what's going to happen?
Yeah. So I think I forgot to who it's for is the entrepreneur who wants to start the business, but doesn't necessarily want to know. And then there's people that are like the chiropractors that are, I was thinking actually a guy I grew up with who's a dentist. You know, you don't have a business if you don't have a website, and how much business are you going to be losing if you have a crappy website? It's like you walk into a department store and all of the crap's on the floor, the clothes aren't folded and the racks are all whatever. Your website is going to be the exact same thing. It's your first impression online. It's your virtual representation of your business. So even if you don't want to start like being a writer, if you have a more traditional business, like, you know, people coming into your office and you want a great online presence to have scheduling, to collect email addresses, to send scheduling updates, to show a behind the scenes view of your new shop. That's the other type of person I think that would be perfect for this. They know a little bit and they want to do it the best possible way. So when you sign up, when you go to exit 8 weeks to exit 8, my Texas accent sometimes come out. 8 weeks to exit.
Oh, I lost the sound. Sorry, I lost the sound for a second. Can you come back with that?
Are you mocking my Texas accent, John?
I think so. I think your Texas accent just blew away the microphone and it didn't know how to even translate it.
So the number 8 weeks to exit. Not
there we go.
Number 2, but 8 weeks to exit. If you go there, you'll go right to the landing page, and there's testimonials. I think there's a testimonial from you, John, on there somewhere.
Yeah, there is. Yep.
Some of the stuff that you've shared about working with me. When you sign up, immediately I will give you a couple options. Actually, it is I think I'm giving away, or I'm not giving away, you just enrolled. I am providing you with a hardback or paperback, but it's a hard copy of the book. I'll give you a digital copy as well, but I will send you, what I've got in my hand here. And then there's worksheets that go along with it that are kind of like bullet points of this roadmap. And then once class starts, what day is the first day is November 2nd. and we're going to have like weekly calls live, actually on this same software that we're using right now. Somebody can dial in either on their phone and listen in, or they can join through their browser and webcam and participate just like this. And we're going to go through there's 8 weeks. We're going to have 8 calls, and we're going to go through all of the things that I talk about in each one of those lessons. And I've taken all of the things that has gotten me where I am, to where we can talk, 1,000 miles away, and John and I've never met in person before. All of the things that have enabled us to do this, I've taken the whole list and I looked, okay, what needs to be done now? What needs to be done second, third, all the way into a list that it may not make sense to the person going through the program at first, but there's a reason why some of these things are in the order they are. It's like a recipe. And I want to take you through all of the things that allows me to have clients and friends around the world, in Perth, Australia, in she's in the UK, and the name where she lives is escaping me, but like Jess and Dean around the world. And I want to show people exactly how to do that. And I think by providing the book, providing the outlines that people can go through, providing video tutorials each week, you don't get it all at once. So you're not going to log in to the special site that I've got and just see everything and not know where to start. It's in bite-sized chunks in an order that makes sense. And I have screen shares and videos that show you exactly how to do it. And then on the weekly calls, we can troubleshoot everything. It's kind of an at-home study course. And right now, I think it's $4.99. This is stuff that it'll probably be a $2,000 course after. This is the first one. The material, as I was talking about with my notebook, the material is not new to me. It's not something that I just discovered. I've just never delivered it in this exact way before. So I want to make it. It's not the cheapest thing, but it's also not the most expensive thing, and it's very undervalued for all the stuff that you get all of the time that it will save you if you want, again, to start an online business, create and sell your own products, or just even learn how a real professional would set up a website. I want to show you how to do that. I've built dozens of websites for myself, for my clients, for other people, and how to do SEO, what SEO is, all that stuff. And that's why it probably should be a $2,000 course. But
yeah, so this is a good time to get in on the ground level with it, because time is money. And I know, like, this year, for the first time, I've had somebody cutting my grass. Part of the reason I do that is because I've got so many other things going on, and it takes him a certain amount of time, but it's time that right now I just don't have. I like cutting my grass, I really do, but right now it pays for me to have that help. And this is kind of a similar thing. This is something where you can get help at a very reasonable rate that will help pave the way to getting your business online a whole lot quicker than if you just try to muddle through it yourself. At least if you're like me.
I think, honestly, it took me about 3 years to learn everything that I want to put in the 8 weeks. And for 2 of those years, I did it every single day, 8 to 10 to 12 to 15 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very research oriented. I'm very fast on a computer. I'm fluent in Google searching things and watching YouTube videos. And if it took me 3 years of daily effort to do what would 3 years, anybody who's listening or watching this, is it worth the $500? Or, if this is way in the future and it's now $2,000, is it worth that amount of time to get 3 years of daily effort back?
Yeah. And that's part of why I wanted to share you with my audience, because I think that, I've had a ton of people. I've been blogging for over 10 years now, and I've got a number of different things that are going on, like the Stretchman group, mastermind group, and, a couple of books, a book that came out a few years ago, another book that's coming out here, hopefully this fall. And, you know, if I could go back in time and, start over, this is the kind of program I really could have used to get my site more professional, get up to speed a lot quicker, and to learn some of the things that, frankly, I just don't, wouldn't have been on my radar before. And I to know that there are those people who have come up to me and say, "Hey, how have you done this?" or "How have you been so consistent?" or "How did you even figure out how to set up a site?" You know, I'd love to be able to refer them to somebody who really can explain it and really do it well and do it justice. And you're that kind of a person. That's why I think that people listening here on my site uh, should check it out. I think it's something that will help you bridge that gap between where you are right now and where you want to be.
Well, where would you,
Life is.
John, if you hadn't started JonStolpe.com 10 years ago,
Mhm.
how would your life be different? Mine would
Uh,
not even look the same. Not even close.
yeah, mine wouldn't either. It was funny. I was sharing on our mastermind call today that I had a couple of people in my office today or yesterday, and we were having a meeting. They weren't people who worked for me or worked at our office or anything, but we talked about the business that we were there to talk about. But then somehow the conversation morphed into some other things. And before you know it, I was able to give them copies of my first book, On Track. And to be able to have that, I would never have had that without my blog. I would never have had the connections with people like you and people like the people in our mastermind group, Matt Lovell and Corey and Jason Beaton, Amy Robles. I wouldn't know those people at all. I wouldn't have had connections with people who really have added a lot to who I am, to what I've been able to accomplish so far. I I really have appreciated the encouragement, the accountability, and just the push that I've gotten from a lot of people because of the online world, because I started JonStolpe.com. And it's also been a cool opportunity for me to stretch other people. I mean, I talk about stretch a lot in my writing, in my conversation and everything, but there's a real reality to that. It has stretched me, but I know I've had countless people who have come up and said, "Hey, you made a difference in my life because of that story you shared, or because of those words of wisdom that you shared on your blog or in your Facebook feed or whatever." So I don't know. It would be very different. That's for sure.
Well, I've talked to a few people, met with a few people who have said, everybody's got a book in them. 75, 80% of people want to write a book. We all have a story to tell. We don't think, I think this is one of the biggest tragedies that's out there, is people undervalue the impact that their story could have. We think, oh, it's just our life. So whether you want to write a book like John or like me or anybody else, um, you've you've got to you have a story to tell. You have
Mhm.
something that's interesting, or you can save somebody else some headache by sharing the lessons that you've learned, or you can share your cool adventures and have somebody live kind of vicariously through you. Whether you want to write a book or not, I mean, a blog is a fantastic way to do that. Like I said, I would not be here. I wouldn't have a book. I'd probably be sitting in another, I don't know if I'd still be at Dell or not, but I'd probably be stuck in another cubicle somewhere. I mean, if you think of if you like Googled a sea of cubicles, you might see something very similar to what I used to work in, and I'd probably be there. I'd probably making chunk of money. I was pretty good at sales. I was selling IT stuff, and I love computers and servers and all that stuff, which helps me and do this. But I don't know. My life would be very different than it is now. Getting to work from my back porch every day if I wanted. talk to people around the world, do some pretty amazing things. And I'd love to be able to give somebody else that opportunity too, and give them the ability to do what we're doing, John. But instead of it taking 3 years of all of this time and effort, uh, trying to figure it out and shorten that down into a series of do this first, here's how you do it. Do this second, here's how you do it. And there's videos. And then I don't know why this slips my mind all often, but one of the biggest values, in addition to all the stuff we just talked about, is you get access to the Facebook group that actually the private group that John and I have been talking about. Nobody's there. It's a very, very small group of other people, entrepreneurs. You can ask questions, and then, like you mentioned before, surrounding yourself with really cool people. That's part of the reason why I wanted to do it this way. So you could read the book, like, yeah, that's a great idea. I've dog-eared, 100 pages. Like Dane was telling me this just yesterday, and he's working on it his second time. People who have read it, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I should do that. They dog-eared and they highlighted and they set the book down and they didn't come back to it. The things that they wanted to do, they set goals for themselves, but life got in the way. And when you have that accountability and encouragement and a place to ask those questions that have put pause on you doing what you want to do, let's answer those questions. Let's give you the accountability and the encouragement to keep you moving forward, and honestly just help you achieve the goals you've set for yourself. I think that's the biggest part of any of this stuff. Is it's not my goals.
And I would say that the financial part of it, it's going to put more skin in the game for you to actually follow through on the actions that you're going to be calling them to. I mean, we talk about that on our mastermind call. I talk about that when I talk to potential mastermind candidates for the Stretch Men group. But, it's the accountability that you're going to get and the skin in the game that you're, by putting a little bit of your money down, it's going to drive you to actually follow through and act on what you're learning, which I think is very valuable. So to sign up, people would go to 8weekstoexit.com, right?
Yep.
Because when they go to the site, and there's a ton of information on the site, you really should go check out that site so that you can learn more, read more about what Ellory's doing. There's a couple of buttons on there that say I want in. Now, does that commit somebody to signing up, or what's the process there?
All right, so you're really literal. Like when I click, what exactly happens? I like it. So when you click on one of the buttons on the page, it will take you to a yellow Enroll Now button, and click on the Enroll Now button, and it will take you to the checkout page, and you fill out some information. Right now, it automatically applies a big coupon. So you see the full price, the coupon is automatically applied, and you fill out your name, your information, put in your card number and everything like that. You will get once you complete your purchase, accepted the terms, you can join my email list. You don't have to complete your purchase. You will get a receipt. And in that receipt, actually, it will take you to a order confirmation page where it has all that information in there also, but you'll also get that stuff via email. And you can start, I don't know if you'd call that like prerequisites or pre-work, whatever but you'll have most of the materials leading up to the course. I don't want people to just, if you walked in, whenever I walked into Guitar Center the first time, when I was first starting my podcast, I'd never been into a Guitar Center before. I didn't know where to start. There was like a wall of guitars and there was like a sound booth and all that stuff. I was overwhelmed. I'm not going to send you all of this stuff and just say, go have fun. So we're going to actually have a structure. We're going to send you some of the information, the book, so you can start reading it and be prepared for the first class. A couple days before the first class starts, I will send you your username and password. You can log in where you will log in, and there will be a preliminary welcome. those kinds of things. I can actually screen share if you're really curious, but then it'll show you week 1, 2, 3, all the way to 8. Those are going to be locked. Can't access them yet because they haven't been unlocked for any of the students yet. And then you'll get, as each week goes, you'll get access to a new week of material. And there's lessons. It'll track your progress. It'll show you what's next. You do one lesson, you go through, click the next button. It'll mark that one complete, and you'll go on to the next one. And what's kind of interesting is all the stuff that I'm doing to make this course function, to present the sales page, to collect the payment, to facilitate the course is stuff that I'm going to be teaching in the course. So there's nothing that I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm not going to show you how to do that. There might be some advanced stuff that we won't have time for, but I mean, it's like, I really like what Ellory's got here. You'll be able to do the exact same thing after the end of it. And that's part of the reason why this first class is discounted. I might be trying to cram too much crap in there. It is a guinea pig. I know the material works. I know the stuff really gets results because, I mean, we've talked about it here, and you've done some of the things that we've talked that will be in the course, Jon. I'm just not worried. I am interested to see how people handle everything crunched down into an 8-week format. You'll have lifetime access to it. It's not a big deal. But I want people who are eager, who don't want to dawdle, who want to reach a destination in 8 weeks, have something to show for what they have. But yeah.
How many spots do you have open for it?
I think there's probably I don't think I'd take any more than 15.
Okay.
Because I want to provide everybody personal responses. There's nothing that's one of the advantages of being in there first, is there's no like canned responses. There's no automated, like, you ask this question, you get a robot answer. I got to know what people are answering. And if I take more than 15 or so, it will become a logistical headache, and I wouldn't be able to provide the level of service that I want to provide.
Right. So I guess my message is, you want to sign up soon so that you get one of those spots. I know we were talking about it a few weeks ago on our mastermind call. You know, Cliff Ravenscraft runs his podcast A to Z course on, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. I'm not sure exactly how many times. And, you know, it costs X amount of money to do it. And he caps each time at a certain number of attendees so that he can provide that personal attention. You don't want to miss out on this personal attention that Ellory could provide to you. I'm sure that, you know, if you sign up and you're past the cap, you know, you can get into a future session, but this is the time to get in right now while the cost is lower, and you know, while it's really, you know, getting off the ground. I would highly encourage you to check it out and go to 8weekstoexit.com. You can sign up and enroll there. Hey, before we sign off, there's a couple things I wanted to touch base with you. You know, I'm always about stretching. So I want to know, what is stretching you right now, besides this 8 weeks to exit?
Yeah, making sure all the content is in there. You know what? I haven't even told Ashley about this. I was working on my second book, growth strategy. You know, we got exit strategy, growth strategy comes next. And I'd put it on the back burner because I didn't feel quite prepared, either mentally or business wise, to talk about the growth of a business. But I think what's really stretching me at this point is and I just thought about this today, Jon. I need to get back into it. I was thinking about the outline on what people can do to grow a business. I was thinking this, okay, I had the idea. I came up with the outline. I shelved it for 6 months and nothing's changed. the material, the things that I would tell people has not changed. So it's not like it was good then and it's less good now. But I also I guess more so to me they're both stretching me. The other part of the stretch part is, okay, I need to continue to grow my business and to continue to do the things that I want to write in this book, to get out of my comfort zone, to continue to
Mm.
grow my business. I've always told people I can't tell you how to have $1 million business because I don't have $1 million business. But if I want to, I've got to have the plan. I've got to come up with the things. I've got to follow the outline. This exit strategy is not there's. I don't know how. I would love to assume that you have read all 293 pages, John, but I will not assume that. But as the parts that you've read, is there any theory, or is it
Is there
all
any theory? It's
things that I have
practical.
done or tried?
Yeah, it's all practical. I mean, the story at the beginning of it obviously is, get you into who Ellery is and what he's bringing to the table from an experience standpoint. But the rest of the book is all practical stuff. It's stuff that you've done. It's stuff that you've led people like me through. So,
Well, the reason why I asked
um,
that is I don't want growth strategy to be theory either. I want it to be things that I have done, that I have helped clients do, and
mhm,
that's really stretching me to pursue the writing of that book before I feel like I'm completely ready.
hmm,
I mean, that's kind of a lame answer, but I know a lot of people. I did this too. I said I will when I'm ready. We will never be ready.
yeah,
And I think as of today, I mean, you're literally. I haven't told Ashley this. I think I might have told one or two other people. So this is brand new, fresh. I think the thing that's stretching me right now is I need to get back and get back to work on growth strategy. And I want to because I love writing, but I don't want to because it's a monumental task, and I don't want to use theory. I don't want to talk about things that I haven't done yet.
mhm.
And I don't know if that's a great answer to the question. Maybe we should talk
No,
about
I,
strapping the arms and legs in and getting pulled.
no, I think it's good. I mean, in our mastermind group, we're just one of your mastermind groups that you run or facilitate, but, we're starting to see that with some of the people getting some real traction. And, I know that you're going to be able to use stories from some of the guys in our group, some of the people who are growing their business now and really starting to get some momentum going. And obviously, you're doing that as well. I mean, you're starting to see some real momentum on what you're doing. There's more and more people who are hearing about Ellery. Ellery's going to be featured as an interview guest on John Lee Dumas's Entrepreneur on Fire podcast here in a few weeks. You've been on uh, Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn. You've been on his podcast. You've been on a few others. The word is getting out about this guy Ellery, and part of the reason I wanted to share you with the people who read my blog and who are connected to me is I want them to have that same opportunity to jump in and grab some of the knowledge that you have to share. So I,
Well,
I just really want to thank you for being part of that conversation here.
thank you, John. I appreciate you pointing that out, and I'll just add to that because whenever I was growing up in the online arena, I always thought, well, they've got this special story. You always hear like, I quit my 6-figure job and uh, started my business, or I left the corner off. I didn't have that. I didn't have a 6-figure job. I didn't have an Ivy League education. Um, all to get too much higher at Dell, you really would have had to have gone and worked at Bain Consulting for a little while. But I had IBM and Dell. I just didn't have Bain, and I didn't do a tour in Europe, so I was kind of capped there. But I thought all these cool people have, these cool stories. They live in a glamorous city like San Diego, like Pat and John, and all these big podcasters, or New York, and I can tweet as I'm strolling Manhattan or whatever. I grew up in a town with like 2,500 people. There were 80 people in 8th grade. We didn't have a high school. I got scholarships to go to Baylor. I wasn't a straight A student. Actually, I had like a pretty fair GPA, or not fair would be a not great, but the diploma is still right there. I didn't have all this special stuff. I'm an average dude. I don't prepare a whole lot for conversations like this because I don't want to give a canned answer. I want to give an honest answer, and that means I don't say the right thing all the time. But that's what you get when you work with me, and that'll appeal to an increasing number of people, like you said, but not for everybody. But that's what I'm trying to bring to the table. Just a real dude who's trying to hustle and figure it out and share what he knows so people don't have to get sick to their stomach when they log into their work computer every day. So anyway.
Well, that's great. One more time before we call it quits for the evening. Where can people connect with you, and give one more plug for 8 Weeks to Exit?
Sure. I'm ElloryWells.com everywhere. I'm the only Ellory Wells in the world. And so if you go to any of these social networks and just type /Ellory Wells, you will most likely find me. I did find somebody using my profile picture on Twitter, but they didn't steal my name, which was weird. And then 8weekstoexit.com, go and enroll. I mean, you just got to do that. If you've listened this long, if you've paid attention to Jon for any amount of time, and you would like to do even a fraction of what Jon's doing, going to Guatemala on mission trips and building houses and all of this stuff, and getting people from around the world to take donations so that he and his family can go and do something like that. It all starts, I think, starts for you, Jon, with being online and sharing a message with the world. You gotta go to 8weeksexit.com and sign up. And I promise you will learn something and move your business further faster than you could have done it on your own.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ellory. I want to challenge you, as well as anybody else who's made it this far in our interview, to keep stretching, find ways to push your purpose into the world, and check out Ellory Wells. He's somebody who is making a big dent in the world, and I invite you to be part of that. Go check out 8 Weeks to Exit. Check out ElloryWells.com. There's a lot of other things that Ellory does, but I really want to push you to the 8 Weeks to Exit right now. Thanks so much. Have a great day, and I look forward to connecting with you here online or in person.
Thanks, Jon.
You're welcome.